Welcome to another edition of Impact TV. I'm Kevin Hilton, the CEO of Impact, and again we're joined with General President of the Ironworkers, Eric Dean. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Kevin.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
Good. This year, or this edition, we wanted to talk a little bit about a retrospective of 2015 and see what we did well and places we needed to grow. But Eric, I think the appropriate place to start is with leadership at the job site. Every contractor I talk to screams for greater market share through more job site leadership. What have we done relative to that?
What the trustees recognize is in the rise of the construction economy that was occurring post-2011, we lost a lot of members to natural retirement, to early retirement, and they just simply had to go somewhere else to feed their family. So we had a smaller workforce, and we recognized that we had to not only resupply the workforce, but we needed supervision and foremen to direct the craft workers, the iron workers, in their daily tasks. So we ramped up and we developed a curriculum, and then we actually advanced it into a second phase where we have foreman training is embedded in all the apprenticeship program for the current level apprentices that graduate. So every apprentice that comes out gets a bit of foreman training, so we're preparing them for the future, because we believe that they're going to be some of the youngest foremen and superintendents the construction industry's ever seen, just by the demographics of the natural retirements. But the superintendents, the people that coordinate the whole company, we recognize are special skills, and there was a shortage of those because most of the superintendents that are either set to retire or who have retired are senior with a lot of experience, and it's very hard to replace. So we wanted to invest in the industry, not only from our traditional apprenticeship training method, which the National Fund and its trustees take care of on the curriculum, but through the impact folks. There wasn't an employer in the room on the Board of Trustees who said, if I had more superintendents and more general foremen, I could take on more work because they could direct more, take on more workflow.
So you're telling me that every foreman in this day and age that comes through an ironworker apprenticeship program comes out with foreman training?
Well, every apprentice presently that graduates to journeyman status has the foreman training. That's embedded in his standard apprenticeship training. But what we got to do is we got to catch some of the folks who went to school before we put that in as a standard core curriculum. Yeah. And so, yeah, we're happy.
I don't think a lot of people realize that everybody coming out of the apprenticeship program has that foreman training. That is, it's something that you hear every day from the contractors saying, we're running at maximum capacity. The thing that we need to grow is that leadership. So that's a very, very important point. Our numbers reflect that 130, at least, ironworkers went through their superintendent training at the level 2. That's pretty impressive.
And I believe it's 570 in total between the level 2, the level 1, and the foreman training. So we're very pleased with those numbers.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just so that everybody...
That's just 2015 numbers.
That's correct.
Yeah, a lot of people get lost. And, I get asked quite oftentimes, they're aware of impact, but they're not aware of how it's reaching down deep into the fabric of the local unions and where we've made those subtle changes. And some of that is our Board of Trustees with the National Training Fund is 8 folks. And it's 4 labor and 4 management trustees. On the Impact Board, we have a broader board with 13 RABs, and all those co-chairs are on there. So there's 26 labor and management RAB co-chairs on the Board of Trustee, and then we have 6 additional who are 3 at large, the general officers, and we match 3 national contractors. So what you do is you get a lot of experience to draw from, not parochially from, say, one area where the training's good, but on a national basis, and what are the big industry needs. And we're able to collaborate.
So for clarification purposes, let's take superintendent training as an example. Impact, at that time, Dr. Rick Sullivan sourced the training, created online training, level 1, then the level 2 face-to-face classroom training, and then transitions it to the National Training Fund.
Well, that's exactly right. Impact many times does the curriculum development, and then the delivery of the curriculum is done by the National Training Fund. And what Dr. Sullivan did at first was he recognized, and the contractors told us, we really can't afford to get our key people or the people that we're grooming for key positions out of the workforce. So we created that online learning. But you can only go so far. We've purchased a learning management system, which is an online video, and it has assessment of various tests that get done and you progress. But nothing beats sitting down with real folks with real life experience to talk about the various things of how you handle large crews, large projects, and that superintendent's training. And it gets rave reviews. It's not something that it's just feel-good, check-the-box training. This is something that's making a quantitative difference.
You know, last summer in Ann Arbor, superintendent training was done, the level 2, the classroom 3-day training. And I ran into an iron worker at the end of that, and he said, you know what? After that training, I think I've been doing my job wrong for the last 19 years. So it has a very serious impact.
You can't teach old dogs new tricks.
No doubt about that. We've done a lot of other training as well, and we've recognized through our analysis that there's certain gaps in our contractor community. As we've said in this space many times before, we've engaged FMI and other people to engage that contractor learning and training. Last year, we held 18 FMI classes. We reached over 400 people. Can you explain why the board has directed us in that position?
Yes, we were talking to our staff, the Ironworkers General Executive Council, and the various district council presidents. And time after time, they were telling me that they were either going to contractor association meetings, maybe a holiday party. And if you think the ironworkers rank and file workforce was having a grain in the temples, they said all of the employers were at a baby boomer or higher level, and there was a concern that there was no successorship, no one to take their place. So we wanted to invest in that next generation of signatory contractor. Maybe they're going to bubble up within the same company. Maybe it's taking somebody who has an entrepreneurial spirit and they want to go into business, or maybe it's just simply giving someone the pathway and the opportunity with the curriculum, and they might find another company where maybe the door's closed within their company based on the leadership's like of an age that's not leaving, and they can go market themselves to another company. But who better than ironworkers governing ironworkers and self-investing in our leadership?
No doubt. And it's also a way to recoup market share. You know, the most prevalent of those 18 classes we held last year was FMI's getting paid. And I've talked to contractors time and time again and asked them, you know, what's your biggest problem? And it's always the same thing, collections. And so we've really taken the next step in investing and giving them the tactics and formal training to be able to meet a very competitive and sometimes a cutthroat marketplace.
Well, I sat as a trustee at my local union for various trusts, and it's very difficult when you have a signatory employer who can't collect the money to pay his bills to be an ongoing viable company. So what we wanted to do was maybe smarten up some of their business practices and invest in them so that the delinquencies tend to trend downward. And we look for that opportunity with the stable of contractors we have, or as I talked about before, teaching that old dog new tricks. We talked about this in a previous segment on IMPACTv, is many of our ironworkers who go into business are great tradespeople and they're very skilled, but they're lacking on the business side. And by investing in the business side, we think in 2015, we saw a very, very marketable improvement in not only delinquencies. Granted, when the construction economy is improving, you see delinquencies tend to trend down. When it's hardening and softening, many people get extended on how many days, the terms in which they get paid. And the fringes are due on the 15th of every month. And, and you know, the rank and file ironworker is due his pension obligation and his health care. So we're trying to help the contractors and ultimately helping the ironworkers in getting those contributions paid in a more timely fashion.
Indeed. We don't want our small contractors financing bigger entities that really don't need the financing by holding their money. The other thing that I think is very, very important to look back on in 2015 is a very robust rollout of the STSC certification. Recent meeting, labor management meeting in Houston, Texas, one of our good contractors said that as a result of the implementation of STSC in their company, they reduced their claims by 50%, which is a big number. Talk a little bit about how we progress with STSC and why it's so important to the iron workers.
Safety in general is paramount to the construction industry, let alone the iron workers. And what we wanted to do was, rather than have the industry does dictate the safety parameters at which our companies have to work and therefore our members have to work. What we wanted to do with the STS is actually empower iron workers to have the safety knowledge, to be supervisors for the company, and be able to manage safety from a perspective of getting the profitability up for the contractor by not incurring more losses, but simply not getting our members nicked on the job. And injuries, they don't help anyone. And our goal is to send everyone home intact every day. And we believe by investing in ironworker supervisors to manage the safety rather than having outsiders or safety people for hire. They're a necessary part of our business, but we thought, why not have it be an ironworker who manages the safety on a job rather than an outsider for a company, and make that available to the employers.
There's at least one employer that I know of that says they will give an iron worker an automatic raise if they get the STSC certification.
It's on every hour of every job that they work. That's a good incentive for our members to take the training and to be more vigilant and aware of safety, even if they're not in the role of safety supervisor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the other piece is grant money. A lot of it goes into upgrading the training centers. And, training is what we have to sell, skilled labor. So we've upgraded through the grant system 79 ironworker training centers. The most important piece in today's construction market is welders. Tell us about where we've spent our money in welding.
Several years back, as we saw the increase, we recognized that we had a shortage of certified welders. We knew a lot of people had the welding skills, but they weren't maintaining their certifications. So we put an incentive in where local unions, if they could increase their percentage, could get welding grant updates to improve their facilities strictly by making a competition. Well, you take 2015, the construction economy is just rising rapidly. Right. Our membership records are they're in line with that rise in the increase. We've seen membership rising across all elements, United States, Canada, shop, outside, and the economy is responding. And one of the biggest skill shortages we have is welders. Mm-hmm. So we figured a lot of the programs, when they went through that downturn in the construction depression, they didn't have the wherewithal to improve their welding labs. And so one of the easiest things to do is take this pool of money that our members allocate to Impact and send it back to improve welding labs and training centers in their local unions. So oftentimes you'll see a rank and file ironworker, he'll see new welding machines or a new fume extraction system in his facility, and he just assumes that's a subset of the joint apprenticeship committees making the improvements, but they are oftentimes in concert with us investing in making those weld lab improvements to not only increase the number of certified welders, but to have better state-of-the-art training facilities and better air quality so that when somebody goes to school, they're not dealing with a 30-year-old ventilation system and putting themselves in bad health effects.
So you mentioned that our numbers are growing. What do they look like recently?
Well, we're north of 130,000 members in gross numbers. That's retired and actives. Mm-hmm. But, just last month, we had about a 760 member increase. And typically, we see the increases come in the front end of summer when the construction season rises and the apprenticeship enrollment. But it's been strong since spring. And every month we had positive growth. And so we don't see any stopping this. We see next year's rise. We're very optimistic, and the federal government is looking to come to some consensus with a transportation infrastructure bill that's going to be 5 to 6 years. And that could be the catalyst between the private capital that's coming to market, high rises and small buildings. The healthcare sector still continues to grow, and the energy sector. It's shifting within the energy sector. Some are waning, some are rising. But if we can get that roads and bridges, the demand for welders is going to be our single greatest, and then probably reinforcing ironworkers second to that. But that welding lab improvement is something that we could sit idly by and let a local limp along, or we can assist by the funding for the impact grants for most of the members. Just as a refresher, when they contribute 0.75% of which that money, 20% of that money stays home for discretionary spending. And oftentimes, out of the large pool of money that the national impact gets through the United States and Canada, we're able to select various areas of need, much like welding lab improvements, and offer assistance in trying to do that. Some of them are through the RAB grants, and some of them are on the national level where we see a deficiency. I can tell you one is in North Dakota. We really didn't have a training center, and the trustees said we need we got to have training center to go after the market share and the work and assist Local 512 in that. So that's something that's something that's going to go on next year, but that's the kind of thinking that we're doing at the Board of Trustees.
The action took place 2015.
Correct.
So just looking back at the whole thing, it's been a year filled with change. The only constant in our life is change. We started January 1st with General President Wise. We're going to end December 31st with General President Dean. Sum up what you take away from 2015.
2015 has been a very positive year. We've seen a lot of growth in membership. We've seen our membership, we're starting to see some increases through collective bargaining. And all that comes with the economy responding. We'd like to say we had a magic button to make the economy better, but until the capital comes to market, there's not much you can do differently, but now we can seize on the opportunities in the growth mode. And that's something that we can do. We can be proactive. And so through impact, we're able to seize on areas of deficiency and have the improvement, whether it be superintendent training, whether it be contractor development, whether it be enhancing the welding labs. And then the traditional things of just enrolling routine apprentices, we can meet the growth. There's many people who say that young people aren't interested in a career trade. We know that if the opportunity is there to enroll people, we can get all the entry-level apprentices we need. But what we need to do is balance that off with some experienced people on the top end, the superintendents, the foremen. And so that's what Impact's doing, is trying to look at that balance between not simply churning out another 10,000 apprentices and having a bunch of willing infantrymen. We need the generals and
fill out the whole
officers.
army, yeah.
Yep.
So we're just a few days from Christmas. What's on your Christmas list?
I'm just going to get to go home. I haven't been home much this year, and see my kids and my grandkids.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, parting shots, 2015's out, 2016's on the way. What do you have to say to the ironworkers and the contractors that view this today?
We just need to keep our members safe and continue to make our contractors profitable, and then our members prosper along the way. And it's a very good proposition when both the contractors and the members prosper. And I see that 2016 bodes well. It's always with hard work. The local union level, the district council level, the international level, and from Impact on the various trusts. There's always work to do. But it's a lot easier to do when there's plenty of man hours and work for both the employers and our members.
Well, thank you, General President Dean. In 2015, we planted a lot of acorns, and we expect to grow a lot of mighty oaks out of that, and it takes time. But the opportunities are really boundless at this point.
Yeah, we're looking up.
That does it for another edition of Impact TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I'm Kevin Hilton, and thank you again, General President Dean, for your hard work in 2015.
Thank you.